Welcome to the UST Education recorded webinar series. This session is powered by US Transactions. UST is a boutique payment processing firm providing you with personalized service. We offer agnostic, best fit technology solutions for associations, nonprofits, and enterprise clients.
Hi, everybody. This is Michelle Barry here from Assured Strategy and Vistage. I'm a 20-year Vistage chair, which is how Jane Scott and I know each other. And in addition, I'm a partner and senior strategy coach at Assured Strategy. And I will be facilitating today's session on strategy, growing with purpose, core values, and the right strategy. And I'll introduce my colleague, Jane Scott. Jane Scott, if you want to.
I'm Jane Scott Cantus. I'm with ILEX Leadership Associates and Vistage. Michelle and I have collaborated on a lot of topics before in terms of defining, refining, and aligning strategy, organizational design, culture, and leadership so that we can support organizations and individuals to become who they need to be in order to become who they were meant to be. We're delighted to be launching this 4-part series for you with Michelle taking the first run at the topic of strategy. We'll have execution, cash, and people at subsequent sessions. So Michelle, I'll turn it back to you.
Awesome. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And before I do that, I'll just get some of the ideas from the chat. So folks are looking for inspiration and clarity, best practices and new ideas, staying relevant and informed on the topic. Great. Better understanding of strategy versus planning. Yep. And that's the distinction between strategy and execution, which is one of the things we do distinguish among. A perspective on how to align values in the strategy. Just wanting to take some time to think about strategies. We all get caught up in the day to day, and every now and then you have to lift up and take that 30,000 foot view so that you're working on the business, not just in the business. And how to get boards focused on strategy when they just want to do things. Yep. So, and one of the critical things is to have the things you do and the strategy and the things you're trying to achieve all be aligned. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully you guys can all see this. So we are about growing with purpose, core values, and the right strategy. I'm going to ask Jane Scott to keep a little eye on the chat for me because I've got a couple of monitors going, and sometimes it's a little hard to see what's on which one.
Will do.
However, if you have a question, please pop it in the chat and we'll do our best to answer your questions. And moving right along. So what we work on here with Assured Strategy is we look at the 4 decisions around scaling up. Scaling up is the platform that we use in our work with our clients. Those 4 decisions are strategy, execution, people, and cash. Not surprisingly, the 4 topics of our workshop series here with you guys. So strategy is about, it's about driving revenue, driving top line growth. It's about what are you bringing to the market for whom? And can you state your strategy in a simple 1-phrase statement that you can understand, your people can understand, your customers can understand? Execution is about the doing, getting things done with clear processes that are efficient, effective, profitable, and they're taking place without drama. Drama brings us to people. People is about, do you have the right people in the right seats doing the right things right? And then cash. Cash we do mean cash, not just revenue, not just profits, but cash, because you can run a business, but if you run out of cash, you're out of business, right? So you can be profitable and go bankrupt. And cash is about having the fuel to run the engine of your business. Can you fuel what you're trying to accomplish? These are the books that we use for the foundation. It's by Vern Harnish, and it started with the Mastering of the Rockefeller Habits. Scaling up is sort of like the textbook of if you're trying to bring the Rockefeller habits to life in your company, what should you do? Unless you have insomnia, I don't recommend just reading it from start to finish. If you have insomnia, please put it on your bedside table. We will cure you. You didn't know you were coming for a cure for insomnia, but you were. It's really, really great reference book. It's a really, really tough read. Start to Scale is is an easier read and a better introduction to the methodology of scaling up. So again, we're starting today with looking at strategy. What are strategic decisions? Strategy decisions. Can you state your firm's strategy simply, and is it driving sustainable growth? We use a one-page strategic plan for our work with strategy and execution. So core is in the gray. We're going to spend some time on the core today. Core is like core values, the things that are your core strengths. Strategy is in the blue. Strategy is around strategic thinking. What are you looking out towards? Strategic thinking is about setting yourselves up for success in the future based on what the world needs from you. And then execution is planning to get that done. So first we'll look at core values and beliefs. Then we'll look at purpose, BHAG, and strengths. So this is all about finding your direction. I love this slide. This is my favorite slide because it sort of puts it all in one easy to grasp framework. So the BHAG, if you haven't read Jim Collins, big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what it stands for. That's like, I'm here to do this. By the end of 15, 20, 30 years, I want to have made this difference in the world, right? I'm here to do this. But it's that mountaintop way out in the distance. And you don't go from where you're here today on this path to that mountaintop. Just, it's not a straight line. There's not a clear path. So what we do is we say, well, if this is where I'm going 10, 15, 20, 30 years out in the future, then where do I need to be in, say, 3 years to just be trajectorily, like on the right trajectory, to be directionally correct, right? If I'm aiming there, where should I be in 3 years? And those are our targets. And even a 3-year target, that's pretty far away. I mean, if you look at it, we're here, that's pretty far away. There's a lot of things between here and that 3-year target. How many of you in the, and I can't see you all, but how many of you in December of 2019 had on your business plan for 2020 a global pandemic? Right? Probably very few of you, because nobody plans for a global pandemic, right? Except maybe the CDC, and they didn't want one, right? Yeah, nobody planned for that. And a year into the global pandemic, did you plan for a complete supply chain shutdown? Probably not, right? So, there's lots of things that we don't plan for that happen along the way. And that's why, like it used to be, I remember doing strategic planning with clients in the 90s. And in the 90s, you made a 5-year strategic plan. And in year 4, you were still working on the same plan that you made 4 years. It is unbelievable. But the world is changing so much more quickly now that we have to be thinking ahead, but planning specifically in a much smaller scale. So we set our BHAG, we set our 3-year targets, we set 1-year goals. And then a real execution plan is from where we are today to 90 days from now. And we start on this path. And the reason that you want to have your BHAG, your 3-year target, your 1-year goal, and your 90 days all very clearly articulated in very simple phrases is because if you don't, your people, these are these little red stick figures, artistry, not my strong suit, okay? These little red stick figures, they will go off and they go, look at the pretty flowers up this hill. Those are beautiful flowers. They might be beautiful flowers. They may or may not take you where you want to go. Your people, with all the best of intentions, will do what they believe is the best thing to do. If you and they are not aligned on what that is, Yogi Berra said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. Well, both directions don't work equally well. One direction will, I know, right? Desiree says 2020 ruined all hopes of planning anything ever again. We have all been traumatized, Desiree. You are not alone. But we still have to give people a direction to go in. They need to know when they're going down this path. If I go left, am I going towards what we're headed for? If I go right, am I going towards what we're headed for? People make little decisions every single day. And if they're not clear and aligned with where you all are trying to take organizations, they will make what they believe is the best decision based on the information that they have. And they will make what they believe is the best decision based on what they're good at and what they like to do. And all of those things may be great, but they may be nowhere near where you're trying to take your company or your organization, right? So we really have to get clear on those things. The BHAG, the 3-year target, the 1-year goals, and then our quarterly trajectory. So Jack Welch, now we can debate the relative merits of Jack Welch another time. But one thing he said that's really, really effective, I believe, is this: strategy is not a lengthy action plan. It's the evolution of a central idea through continually changing circumstances, right? That BHAG is your central idea, your core purpose, your values. These are your central ideas. These are your core. Those don't change. They evolve as a plan needs to change, because as you're going through your quarter, you may hit a global pandemic. You may hit a bump in the road where stuff is going to happen that we don't see from where we stand right now. Our CEO at Assured Strategy, David Chavez, likes to say, don't fall in love with your path, fall in love with your destination. And that's where that alignment has to help our employees as well, because if they're not constantly looking for where are we headed, they get lost in the minutia of the day to day. Where are we going? You got to find your direction. What is strategy all about? Strategy fundamentally is about a unique and valuable position in the market for which you make trade-offs, and you design your company to accommodate those trade-offs such that you are fulfilling on that unique and valuable position in the market. Now, who determines whether your position in the market has value? Anybody in the chat? Who determines whether or not your position in the market has value? Customers, Lauren, thank you very much. Buyers, Christine, yes. Stakeholders, yes. We can say we have this great idea, but if nobody wants it, we're not going to get very far, right? So we have to know what the market is saying, and we have to have a unique and valuable position. We make trade-offs for that because we can't be all things to all people. And then we design our organization, we create fit, we design our organization to execute, to bring that unique and valuable position to life, right? So strategy is not operational effectiveness. Operational effectiveness is necessary to achieve your strategic goals. But operational effectiveness is not in itself a strategy. Your customers don't pay you to handle things internally better. They pay you for what you produce and deliver to them, right? How well you do or do not handle that internally has an impact on them, but that's not what they're paying you for. That determines your profitability. That can be hard because in the weeds, we want to do operational effectiveness. We have to do operational effectiveness. I'm just saying, not that that's not essential, it is, but it's not strategy. Strategy is our position in the marketplace. You know your strategy is rocking it when customers are calling you, you're not calling them. If people are beating a path to your door, by God, you have a unique and valuable position, or you are so grotesquely underpriced that they're coming to you to save money. I am hoping you're not grotesquely underpriced, right? So when you think about this, you have to think about competition. And what do you think? Are you competing to be the best, or are you competing to be unique? Put it out in the chat. What do you guys think? Best or unique? Somebody says both. Unique, 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 unique. Yes, yes. unique with quality, I'll agree with that. But if you're just competing to be the best, then you're a me too. You're doing the same thing that other people are doing. You might be doing it better right now, but you're not. That's a tough differentiator because what's better, right? What's the best?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be unique. Remember, strategy, back a couple of slides. Unique and valuable position in the marketplace for which you make trade-offs and create fit. So yes, you're competing to be unique. And core values are some of what creates that uniqueness for you. You can, yes, Natasha, you can be uniquely the worst. That is an unenviable position, and you're not going to last long. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get a reputation. It just may not be the one you want. Right? So core values are a critical differentiator. What are they? They're a handful of rules that remain constant. Right? A handful of rules that remain constant. Just curious in the chat, how many of y'all have core values that you know, that you live by, that you make decisions by, right?
Put some of those values into the chat.
Yep. People say they do. Yep. Some hands raising. Awesome. Awesome. Great. Your issues were clear. Yeah. Clarity and core values is really important. They're essential to productivity. Yes, they are. If you're doing them well, yes, they are. Thanks. So here's an example of an effective core value. Do the right thing. Use good judgment and respect when interacting with our clients, partners, employees, and families. Feel good about your decisions and actions. With this client, when we were helping them and they had do the right thing, one of the things that it was a family business and the parents had founded it and their offspring were running it. And so the CEO was, and he said basically, he's like, I know I'm doing the right thing if I'm proud to tell my mom, right? If I'm proud to tell my mom, then I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm using good judgment. So some of these are visionary thinking, integrity, respect, and collaboration. That great to have them. And I will say one of the things we help with our clients around core values is we make them a behavior. You want to be able to speak and see and say your core values. You want an objective video camera to be able to record your core values brought to life, right? Otherwise, they're just good ideas that are ill-defined and nobody knows whether they're happening or not. You need to define them with the behaviors that represent living up to them, right? This is another client's core values. Always put the cap on the toothpaste. Who knows, just a guess what this core value is all about. Anybody in the chat, what do you think this core value is all about? Always put the cap on the toothpaste. Yes, finishing the job. Finish what you start. Yes, messy behavior, thoughtfulness, complete your work. Exactly. Personal responsibility. Don't leave a mess. Nobody wants to follow this person in the bathroom to brush their teeth, right? What kind of wake are you leaving? Courtesy, yes. Take personal responsibility. Always put the cap on the toothpaste. This sort of visceral bringing to life of the values. Accountability, yes. Right? So core values are a handful of rules that remain constant, and there's a test for them. Would you fire an offender? Now, not a first-time offender, right? But a repeat offender. You've tried to coach them up. Would you fire an offender based on your core values? Would you be willing to take a financial hit based on your core values? Are they alive among your people today? Do people understand the behaviors associated with the core values? So I'll give you a couple examples. Sullivan Solar Power, one of our clients, core values: be a part of the solution, have drive and passion, set the standards, and be in a perpetual state of improvement, right? And for them, this sort of defined, we look at policies and procedures and process as defining the how to do the business, like the technical part of the business. The core values are the how do you do the people part of the business, right? What are the behaviors that we believe are essential for how human beings treat one another in our company? How do our human beings act? And so this is Sullivan Solar Power. Protect Building Services. They are all in, they learn and grow, and they own it. So what does that mean? Well, when they go to do work on somebody's home or in somebody's building, they don't leave a mess. They don't leave something half finished. They don't leave like a. Have you ever had work done on your house or at your business where the contractor leaves that list at the end, that little list of final items that they just never seem to get to? Because let's face it, contractors like to do the punch list. Exactly, Susan. The contractors like to do the big cool stuff, and those punch list items, those are the niggling little things that irritate the crap out of us as customers, but that our contractors very rarely like to do. Well, with Protect Building Services, they don't leave until they've cleared that punch list with a walkthrough with the customer. They own it, right? They will walk the site with the customer before they leave to make sure that there is nothing left on a punch list. God, wouldn't that be a relief if you knew that your contractor wasn't going to just leave you high and dry with this punch list that you're living with literally for a decade in some cases or longer? Right? Wilson Creek is great. They're a winery and vineyard in California. There's be warm and engaging, have the courage to be different, passionately care, value the person in front of you, and be down to earth. So they have a really cool story. Remember, one of the tests of how core are your core values is would you take a financial hit? So they're a vineyard. When everything shut down in the world in March of 2020, and eventually COVID tests were happening, the vineyard takes a hit because they couldn't have their workers out there or in their process out there in their grapevines and in their processing plants. Mm-hmm. So they were shut down essentially for a couple of months. They finally, in June of 2020, got the okay to open up and, people keeping their distance and whatnot. The day two of being open, somebody comes in, an employee comes to work knowing that they were positive for COVID and came to work anyway. CEO found out, the CEO was like, oh my God, we're just open after 3 months of being shut down. We need to work. What am I going to do? And then he's like, now I get it. Now I get, would I take a financial hit? Value the person in front of you, passionately care, have the courage to be different. If I care about my employees, which I do, I can't continue operating. I have to shut down, have everybody tested, get through the incubation period. They took a significant hit. Everybody's back to work now. Everybody understands that they need to own coming to work if healthy and wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff. Well, the New York Times found out about this decision of the CEOs to shut down for another 2 weeks after being shut down for 3 months, all based on these values, did an article on them in the business section of the New York Times. And it went viral in the way things do. And Wilson Creek ended up having orders up the yin-yang. I mean, they had so much growth because they had the courage to live the values in the face of a financial hit. Right? There's no guarantee of that. You can live your values and nobody will ever know the difference, and you may not go viral. But it just was really reinforcing for the CEO and everybody in the organization. You know what? We live these values, and this is what living the values means. So one of the tools that I'll make available, and Riley, you'll help me offline, that will make available to everybody who's participating in this, is a tool to help you develop your core values. And the way you think about it is start by thinking, Who in my organization would I love to clone? Who would I love to clone? Who do I wish I had like 10 of? If I could only take this person or these couple of people and multiply them, right? Figure out who those people are and what is it they're doing and how is it they're doing it that you wish you could multiply, right? That helps you get to the essence of what you value. Similarly, you can think about former employees that you've terminated, not voluntary terms, but former employees that you've terminated. What attributes did they possess that didn't really fit into your company, right? So you want to sort of create these, this is us, this is not us, to help you define what could be your core values. And then test them out in words and phrases. See if you can behavioralize them, right? Test them out before you roll them out. Test them out just with the senior team. Test them out amongst each other. Test them out as you're working with your people. See if they resonate. See if they catch on. See if people start using that language. If it catches on, resonates, seems to give you that, you may have captured the essence of your core values. All right? So we'll give you this tool that you guys can use. The next thing I want to look at is your why, your core purpose. What difference are you making in the world? So in the chat, have you guys heard of Simon Sinek? If you have, some of you have, great. If you have, go to TED.com, TED, TED.com. You may have heard of TED Talks. Simon Sinek does a fantastic, oh, you saw him, Melissa? Yeah, I've seen him too. Isn't he amazing? He's a great speaker. His TED Talk on your why, finding your why, is a really great and inspirational TED Talk. And it's you want to understand what difference you're making in the world, right? So this, if you look at this mission statement, we provide our customers with quality products and the expertise required for making informed buying decisions. We provide our products and services with a dedication to the highest degree of integrity and quality of customer satisfaction, developing long-term professional relationships with employees that develop pride, creating a stable working environment and company spirit, blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Anybody know where this is from? I'll give you a guess. It's a sitcom. Give you a hint. It's from The Office. Yes, Robin, you got it. Yes, yes. Yes. This is not what we're striving for. We're not striving for long, complex sentences of business talk gobbledygook. Right? Right? You want to look at what's your passion. And for that, we use the parable of the three bricklayers. And there's I don't know if you're familiar with the parable of the three bricklayers, but you're going to get my version of it. So a guy's walking through, and think about, I don't know which cathedral this is, but say you're in Paris and you're walking through when the original Notre Dame, not the recreation of it after the fire, when Notre Dame was being built. And you're going past three of the folks who are doing the work, and you go to the first bricklayer and you say to the first bricklayer, "Hey, what are you guys doing? I see a lot of people gathered here, and what are you guys doing?" And he says, "Can't you see I'm making a brick, and I'm making bricks. I'm making a lot of bricks." And the passerby is like, "Wow, that's okay. You're making bricks. That's great." And he goes to the next guy and says, "So are you making bricks?" He goes, "Well, I'm not just making bricks. I'm making bricks, to build a building. I mean, we're going to have a building with these bricks." "Oh, okay. You're making bricks to build a building." Goes to the last guy and says, "What are you doing here?" "I am building a cathedral to honor our God. It's going to be stunning." Right? Now, which of the three is expressing the passion of the cathedral building? Right? You're laying bricks, you're building a wall or a building, you're building a cathedral to honor your God. Right? Now, if any of you know exactly, Lauren the third, if any of you, yes, several of you, exactly. That's what you want to understand. What is your passion? Your BHAG that we talked about earlier is an expression of that. If you are successful in bringing your passion to life, what difference are you making in the world? Knowing that cathedrals took several hundred years to build, if workers didn't keep that passion in mind, like they were never gonna, most of the workforce was never gonna see the cathedral. They would see walls, but they would never see the cathedral. The majority of the workers would never see the finished product. They would die first, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of interesting to think about. And, you know, some of us see local construction projects and kind of think the same thing. But you want to be able to think about your core purpose. One of the ways of discovering your core purpose is to interview the founder of your organization to figure out historically, why did that founder historically create the organization? Why do we exist? Now, that founder may or may not be accessible to you, but it's why do we exist? What would happen if we went away? And there are 4 main categories for your core purpose. And you can be doing something good, you can be doing something true, you can be doing something beautiful, or you can be doing something heroic. You do not exist to make money or profits. Money and profits are necessary in order for you to continue to exist, right? You have to be able to eat to continue to live, and money and profits allow you to eat. They're the fuel for the car, right? No profits, no money, the organization doesn't survive. But that's not why you come into existence, right? And there's Simon Sinek. So why, start with why. Highly recommend his Start With Why book and the TED Talk, much shorter version. For Sullivan Solar Power, their purpose is to lead the solar energy revolution, to change the way the world generates electricity. They want to change the way the world generates electricity. How cool is that? Right? When you think about the beginning of solar power, right? For ProTech, they're improving the quality of life. They're making buildings, but they want to make those buildings in such a way that they're improving the quality of life of the people who use those buildings. Wilson Creek, their purpose is to enhance lives. Now, again, we know the story of the Wilson Creek founder. When he was initially thinking about his purpose, and everybody was like, we make wine. We make wine, right? We're not like fancy French wine that's going to be a couple $100s a bottle. We're wine that normal people can go to a store and buy. We make wine. And he was like, yeah, I get that. But when do people drink wine? Why do people drink wine? So you guys just think about it. When do you drink wine and why do you drink wine? Yes, Jim, in celebration. With others, Diana, exactly. To wind down, Lauren, yes. Social occasions, special occasions, with a meal, to relax, with other people, right? You say that all of that enhances your life, right? So he sees what they do as enhancing lives of their customers. And if they do it well, yes, it fosters connection, it fosters relationships. When you have to be social, yeah, I hear you, Deborah, because I'm a natural introvert myself, and socializing isn't necessarily highest on the list of things I want to do, right? But yeah, right? So what is your purpose? And again, we have a tool that will make available to you guys to help you start to think about, what is our purpose? What are we here for? Are we in service to others? Are we in search of truth and knowledge? Are we in pursuit of beauty and excellence? Or are we here to change the world? That's the heroic category, right? What do we do? Why does it matter? What do we do? Why does it matter? Why is it important? Why does that matter? It's if you've ever done any Six Sigma process work, and you may or may not, in Six Sigma, there's a process, there's a way of getting to the root cause, saying the 5 whys. You get, what caused it? Like, why did that happen? And why did that happen? And why did that happen? And why? These are the 5 whys as applied to your core business purpose, right? Why is it important? Why does it matter? Why is it important? Why does it matter? As you delve into that, you'll get to your core purpose. And again, the BHAG, great to know your BHAG. 10 to 30 years out, it challenges you to greatness. It reinforces your fundamentals. This is your Mount Everest out there, right? What are you deeply passionate about? What drives your economic engine? And what can you be the best in the world at? Your BHAG is the intersection of these. Now, if you've read Jim Collins' Good to Great, any of you read Jim Collins' Good to Great out there? So if you do, and it's a valuable business reference that lots and lots of business people will refer to. Whether you did or not, if you read Good to Great, Jim Collins refers to this as the hedgehog principle. We actually find that the hedgehog and the BHAG are very, very similar. And so if you think about what you care passionately about, what drives your economic engine, and what you can be the best in the world at, that's your BHAG. Now, best in the world doesn't mean necessarily best in the entire planet Earth. It's best in your world, right? It drives your economic engine and you care about it deeply. So Subway, for example, back in the day when Subway was founded. So think about Subway. So most of us have been to a local deli, right? Like a neighborhood deli where you go in, there's only one of them. You go in and you like it. And the guys behind the counter, the men and women behind the counter, like they know you, they know your sandwich order, they know what you like. There's like, Craig who starts his deli. I'm Craig's Deli. And I just want to have a good deli, fresh meats, and provide for my customers. I want to sell it for more than I bought it for and make good sandwiches for my customers. And that's great. And Craig could live and die very, very happy running that deli. But the founders of Subway, that wasn't their idea. They had a different idea. They had a vision where their vision was that they wanted in 10 years from the start of Subway, they wanted to have 32 restaurants. Now, if your vision is that, yeah, I'm starting a deli, but at the end of 10 years, I want to have 32 of them. You don't just start your deli the way Craig started Craig's Deli, right? Because if you want to do this, you have to set up your operations differently because you're going to have to figure out, well, how do I do this 32 times in 32 different locations? So you need to set up operations that are repeatable, that you can teach people, that you can set up in different locations that can run smoothly without Craig being there, right? So you have to, the whole design of how you build your company, how you build your deli is different. So Subway's first deli wasn't built like Craig's Deli. It was built differently. As a result of it, they had 5,000 locations now, right? In 10 years, they had way more than 32 locations. And they set up a new BHAG. Their BHAG after they reached eclipsed the 32 locations was they wanted to get 50 cents wallet share each week, right? So 50 cents of every dollar spent for lunch, they wanted people to spending their lunch at Subway. So what did they do? Anybody familiar with Subway's a deal on the footlongs, right? Where you could get 2 footlongs and a drink, right? Remember that? 2 footlongs and a drink at Subway where you could get that deal? Well, that was a whole strategy. That was a whole plan of how do we go to market with that. Those were the good old days. Brittany, you're right. They had that whole plan to bring people in to the Subway. Now, if you look at how Subways are set up, Subway was the first business to really set up all of their fresh ingredients under glass right in front of the customers so you could see them making the sandwich, right? Chipotle does that now, right? There are a lot of other businesses that have copied Subway's model. Subway's new desire is to be 100,000 locations worldwide by 2030. They are currently outpacing that. They're going to eclipse that before 2030. Right? All based on the founders' BHAG that we weren't going to just start a deli like Craig. We were going to start a a deli that's in between. It's not quite fast food. It's like deli. It's quality deli products, fresh deli products, but we're going to do a lot of them. Starbucks, their BHAG is to be the #1 consumer brand on the planet. So back to some of our examples, Sullivan Solar Power, their BHAG is to unplug a city block from the grid. In other words, to have solar be so effective and ubiquitous that an entire city block can run off grid off of solar power. ProTech wants their business to have 30 offices by 2030, 30 by 30. So that's 30 locations for their business to be able to help buildings in 30 communities, right? 30 offices by 2030. Wilson Creek, their BHAG, was to sell 1 million cases. They reached this in 2026. They've already reached this. So they're working on their new BHAG. So what's your BHAG? Again, here's a tool that we'll provide for you guys so that you can begin to work on defining this. We find with clients that the BHAG takes a little while, that we sort of get a draft version of it, and then we play with it over the first year to 2 years to really get clarity, unless you actually started out the gate with clarity like Subway did, right? But not everybody does. All right. Questions for anybody? Questions in the chat? Time for questions.
You know, while we're waiting for some questions to come up, Michelle, I might mention very early on, somebody had asked, how do you keep your board focused on strategy instead of the planning and the doing? And quite frankly, a number of these worksheets are great exercises to actually get the input from your board on, right? The core purpose and the core values.
Yep.
Particularly the last one, the BHAG strategy. It helps with alignment. It helps with them providing their feedback, and it keeps them up at the level where you want them thinking, not down in the weeds where you're needing to do your work.
Yep. And when you have that, remember the mountain scene? When you have your BHAG and your 3-year thrusts, you can keep them focused. Here's what we're doing this quarter. Here's where we're going. Here's what we're doing this quarter. Here's where we're going. Here's why we need to do this quarter to go there. Right? It keeps that message. It keeps that focus. It keeps that alignment for everywhere from your senior leadership, your board of directors, all the way down through your workforce. Oh,
So
great.
Joshua wants to know, it seems like many of the strategic goals outlined are very aspirational. Is that always the best method?
So they're aspirational in that you're going somewhere that you haven't been before, right? So you're treading fresh ground for you and your organization. But it's not just, so remember, your strategy is your unique delivery to your core customers, right? It's why your core customers want to work with you and not somebody else. So so you have to know what that is. And so if you don't yet know it, it may feel aspirational because you may not have clarity on it. But then you create an execution plan. An execution plan is that operational excellence. It's not strategy, it's execution. Operational excellence and execution is what Jane Scott's going to be on the next program with. Execution is how you go from here to there. And that is very detailed, and that is very specific. And that's where accountability and responsibility come in. And that's where process and process excellence comes in. And that's where your values come to life. And how do we do what we do to execute, to achieve our goals, to achieve our rocks, right? And so strategy in a vacuum will get you nowhere. execution, you can execute very, very well and not necessarily go anywhere. You're just executing. Uh, the combination is where you can really make a difference, right? If you get good at the executing in order to accomplish something, that's what's really cool about running a business, right?
Yeah.
Not
I
just
think
executing for executing's sake. You're executing in the service of this purpose, this mission, this goal.
I'd add there for Joshua that I think the word impact might be the word to use as opposed to aspirational. Sort of, if you are committed to providing this unique value, this product or service for a greater good, you define, and you're going to be doing it for the BHAG is what, 10, 15 years. You're going to be doing the activity. What's the impact that you want to have? Man on the moon, Apple on every desk, right? And so it really is that connectivity of the why into the core purpose and the reason that you're going to be dedicating, the founder has dedicated 10, 15, 20 years of their life to doing this, right? Providing renewable energy for the sustainability of our planet. So it sounds aspirational, but I think if you think about it in terms of impact, if we did this for 10 to 15 years, what's the impact we're going to have? That's strategy. It's that longer term. And then the planning and the execution that we get to are the steps that you'd be doing on a regular basis in order to get into that trajectory.
So, for example, at Assured Strategy, our BHAG is to impact 100,000 lives by 2030, right?
Mhm.
And so we track that every interaction we have. So you all are lives that I'm hoping to have an impact on, right? So I'm hoping this session has an impact. So um, you become part of that count of 100,000 lives that we're hoping to impact. And why are we hoping to impact this? Because we believe that by working with leaders who are growing and changing, that we are helping to really improve how business happens, right? We're not only enabling businesses to be successful economically, but we're doing so through purpose, through values, through behaviors that make your businesses fantastic places to work where your employees want to come to work every single day.
Mhm.
So we believe that we are having an extremely positive impact on the lives that we have the opportunity to interact with.
Oh.
Right?
And Joshua, come back for people, and you'll see why it's so
Yeah,
incredibly important to have these aspirations, these
yeah.
impacts in mind as it connects into the engagement of your workforce and your employees.
So, Lauren, to
Um,
answer your question,
mhm,
Lauren asks, after developing your BHAG, would you then develop specific objectives of how you're going to climb the mountain? Yes, one quarter at a time, right? So you climb, the BHAG is out there, and we get there by, so our BHAG is 100,000 lives by 2030. How do we get there? We get there by, being here in 3 years, by being here in 1 year, by doing this quarter, right? And if I have had the opportunity to have an impact on all of your lives today, and then you take anything you've learned and go back to your organizations and improve what you're doing in your organizations, I've gotten to have that impact, right? Like that is so, like I love that. I love that. I love helping because I believe that leaders really want to do a really good job leading. And we're Sherpas in that, right? You're trying to climb Mount Everest in your business. We are your strategy Sherpas. We help people climb Mount Everest in their business. That's what I'm here for, right? You still have to do the climbing, right? If you think of Sherpas climbing Mount Everest, the mountain climbers still have to climb the mountain. Sherpas can't do it for you, but not a lot of people would try to climb Everest without a Sherpa, right? And that's what these sessions are for. This is some of our Sherpa guidance to help you climb your Everest.
mhm.
And I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap up? And I don't know, Riley, if you have any questions for folks in the chat as well on your end.
I do have one final question, but it'll be after everything's wrapped up on your end.
Great. All right. Any other questions from folks out in the world? If not, keeping in mind that we have 3 more sessions coming. This third session, cash, is going to actually change dates. That's going to be, we think, on the 26th, not the. Yep. They're going to change these dates.
Yeah, the 31st is people. Yeah.
Yep.
So March 31st is people. So next week, next Tuesday, the 7th, is execution. And we'll be able to get Lauren some of those answers for you because it's the yellow sections of that one-page strategic plan that we'll be focused on, which is the taking the strategy, the big aspirational BHAG, the 3-year thrust, and then pulling it in closer as to where do I need to be in a year to make sure that I'm on track to get to my 3-year thrust to get on the trajectory for my 15, 20-year BHAG. So that's next week. A big aspect of that is your communication cadence, because the clarity and alignment is critical.
Yep.
You got to be talking with one another. The 26th will be cash. This is all about liquidity. Do you have the financial resources? Do you have the cold, hard cash to keep your business going? And Michelle is excellent at talking about that. It's very complex and she makes it so simple. So that will be a great one.
You'll love it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the 31st we'll wrap up with people. You have the right people doing the right things in the right way to get to the right goals. Yeah.
And so this is email addresses for Jane Scott and myself. And if you have questions, if you have follow-up questions, you're welcome to reach out. If I can help you with any of these elements that we talked about either today or in any of the sessions going forward, please, by all means, you're welcome to reach out.
Oh, and thank you, Riley. It's the 10th, next Tuesday, week from today.